地獄から来た掃除人。お前たちのような誇りを掃除して回ってる男さ。
Criminals, dogs, and outlaws threaten a small town's peace. Unable to defend themselves, the people resign to their fate. But when all appears lost, a wandering stranger appears and saves the day with incredible skills, wit, and a strong sense of justice. This general premise has been used as the basis for many legendary stories, like Akira Kurosawa's 1961 movie Yojimbo, which centers on a wandering ronin who helps a small town that is under siege by two feuding crime bosses. This idea was also at the heart of another Japanese movie produced by Nikatsu in 1959, Migratory Bird with a Guitar. Starring Akira Kobayashi, this work centers on Shinji Taki, a former detective who discovers a criminal plot in the town he recently arrived to. After putting a stop to the crime boss's ambitions, he wanders off to his next unknown destination. Migratory Bird with a Guitar was a success at the box office and well received by moviegoers, which led to 8 sequels between 1960 and 1962, which followed Shinji as he took on many different kinds of criminals and evildoers to protect the people in the small towns he visited. In 1976, Toei film producer Takeyuki Suzuki revisited the Migratory Bird series and used it as a reference point for a new Shotaro Ishinomori Tokusatsu hero work that will broadcast in place of the cancelled Ninja Captor TV series. While working on the foundational elements for this new program, scheduling conflicts popped up and Takeyuki dropped out of the project, which was inherited by screenwriter Hideyoshi Nagasaka, who, while not familiar with the Migratory Bird series, leveraged the pre-planning work to write a story and create a setting that carried the same atmosphere. In parallel to Nagasaka's scriptwriting, the character's design was also being worked on, with an early depiction of this new hero first appearing on the pages of TV Magazine in 1977. Donning a white suit with a black cape and accentuated by a large letter Z on his chest, the magnificent Zubat was shown as a heroic figure who took on criminals in the name of justice. While the designs for the character and his arsenal would change between these depictions and their final production-ready counterparts, the general direction is mostly retained and the character is recognizable across each of these versions. On February 2nd of 1977, Kaiketsu Zubat premiered on Tokyo Channel 12. It would run for a total of 32 episodes, ending its broadcast on September 28th. Kaiketsu Zubat's story centers on Ken Hayakawa, a traveling private detective who appears in the mountains of Japan to rescue his best friend, Asuka Goro, and his siblings, Midori and Osamu, from being killed by Hell Dragon's goons. But after a short reunion, Asuka is seriously injured by a bomb that Hell Dragon planted on the bus he was traveling in. While recovering in the hospital, Asuka is gunned down by an unknown assailant during a bombing of the facilities. With his last words to Ken, Asuka promises to hunt down whoever planted the bombs and make them pay, and that he will fight alongside his friend when he recovers. Shocked by what happened, Ken promises Asuka to set out on a journey for justice and find his killer. This brings the private detective to his dead friend's lab, where he works day and night to complete Asuka's unfinished secret projects, a space exploration power suit, and a supercar that can fly. Despite the difficulty of bringing these unfinished projects to life, Ken manages to do so. Now, armed with the Zubat suit and the Zubat car, he will fight the criminals who took his friend's life and are threatening the lives of countless people across Japan. The wandering hero, the magnificent Zubat, has arrived. Throughout his journey, Hayakawa would be supported by Shingo Toyo, a detective with the Tokyo Metropolitan Police. A longtime friend of Ken's, Toyo is the only person who knows Zubat's true identity. Ken's search for Asuka's killer would take him across all of Japan, with each stop in his journey bringing him face to face with one of the many gangs and criminals that make up the secretive Dakar organization. Each of these groups is led by a local boss and their bodyguard, who are responsible for achieving Dakar's ambitions through a diverse portfolio of criminal activities that range from stealing real estate and blackmailing business owners to rigging small-town elections. 6 months after his self-imposed mission to find the person behind Asuka's murder started, Ken finally discovers Dakar's existence and the truth behind his friend's killer. Will he be up to the challenge of defeating the mysterious boss L and finally avenge his best friend? Kaiketsu Zubat was produced during a transition period that falls between the henshin hero boom of the early 1970s and the beginning of renewed interest in this programming format in the late 1970s, which was led by various anime and tokusatsu hero shows, including Toei's Spider-Man, Battle Fever J, and Kamen Rider programs. As such, it doesn't quite fit in with Toei's preceding transforming hero productions like the Kagestar, Ninja Captor, and Chojin Bibium. While those programs tended to feature fantastical battles between heroes of justice and their adversaries, Kaiketsu Zubat was generally grounded in the real world, often shying away from some of the more over-the-top tropes we tend to associate with henshin hero programs from the mid-1970s. But Zubat was not necessarily a realistic program, just one that made its battle between a hero of justice and an evil organization more accessible by depicting it against the backdrop of the real world through a criminal syndicate that is made up of human gangsters, albeit eccentric ones, and the types of crimes that tend to make news headlines. There are no giant mecha, mystical forces, or monsters for Zubat to contend with. What the program did extremely well, which contributed to its rating success plus its long-term popularity in the years to follow, was to give actor Hiroshi Miyauchi free rein to leverage his acting skills and on-screen charisma to make Ken Hayakawa a category-defining cool hero. So much so that the private detective character overshadows his heroic alter ego throughout the entire 32-episode run of the series. This is best exemplified by the episodic duels Ken has with each of Dakar's bodyguards, which all follow the same format. First, Ken catches them by surprise by easily recognizing who they are and what their specialized skill is, much to the delight of these eccentric characters. And just as quickly as he builds them up, he deflates their ego by telling them that they are only the second best at that skill in Japan. To which they inevitably always ask, then who is number one? This led to a very confident and cool response by the detective, who with a small tip of his hat and a hand gesture would point to himself. This leads to a high-stake duel between Ken and the bodyguard to prove who is really the best. And whether it's carpentry, spinning tops, American football, billiards, or pistol shooting, Ken always comes out on top, often with feats that are hard to believe. But Ken's charismatic coolness goes beyond these demonstrations of skill. It's built into the way he operates within the world of Zubat. An example of this is his initial appearance in every episode, which begins with the melody of his guitar, which immediately stops Dakar's henchmen from attacking their victims as they frantically search for the music's source. Then, without missing a beat, the private detective enters the scene and easily disposes of his foes, accentuating his win with a clever phrase or visual trigger that makes the stunned criminals fall to the ground simultaneously. And when he re-emerges at the end of each story as the magnificent Zubat, this charisma continues to come true with his heroic arrival announcement and proclamation against that episode's criminal boss. Ironically, while the character of Ken Hayakawa is what made this series so popular and successful in the ratings, it ultimately played into the program's shorter than planned for broadcast run. Unlike other transforming hero programs from this period, Zubat and his vehicle, Zubacar, only appeared at the end of each episode for a short duration of time. Over the course of the series, this would become an issue for program sponsor Takatoku Toys, which measured the success of their programs through merchandise sales, not ratings. Despite multiple requests to give Zubat and Zubacar more screen time, series writer Hideyoshi Nagasaka refused to change his approach to the story. While Nagasaka's decision to retain the story's dramatic direction led to the series' early cancellation, in the years to come it's what made Zubat a legendary TV show and Ken Hayakawa such a fun-to-play character that actor Hiroshi Miyauchi will go on to play variations of the private detective in other series. Following Zubat's cancellation, the actor would join the cast of the struggling Sentai TV series Jakka Dengekitai as Captain Tsukishi Bamba, who would fight alongside the core team against the forces of the crime syndicate as Big One. In this role, Miyoshi's portrayal of the character recalls Ken Hayakawa with a bigger-than-life presence that often overshadows everything else happening on screen. In 1978, the actor would resurface in episodes 31 and 39 of Toei's Spider-Man as private detective Go Tachibana. This character was essentially an alternate take on Ken Hayakawa with many of the character's trademarks on full display, including his style of clothes, mannerisms, and dramatic entrance accompanied by the melody of his guitar. In 1982, Miyauchi would reappear with another alternate take of the Ken Hayakawa character in Space Sheriff Gaban. Accompanied by a melancholic sounding whistle, his trademark hat, and jacket, he makes a dramatic entrance in episode 31 of the legendary Metal Hero series as Space Sheriff Alan. It's clear the actor has a strong affinity for the role, as he would continue to revisit it for TV appearances on Japanese pop culture programs and other media like video games, including the 1999 PlayStation game Superhero Operation, where he takes on the role of Ken Hayakawa again, not only for the game, but also for the TV commercials that were produced to advertise it. More recently, the actor revisited the role by voicing the character in the 2011 movie Os, Then O, All Riders, Let's Go Kamen Riders, in which Zubat reappears side by side with other Ishinomori heroes from the 1970s to defeat General Shadow. Zubat's enduring popularity would also go on to inspire parodies and characters in other media. One of the earliest parodies of the character was The Greater Senki, an independent short by Daikon Film. In it, Yasuhiro Takeda pays homage to the Zubat TV series by reenacting some of the program's best-known tropes, including a challenge to prove who is the #1 expert in a particular skill. Zubat's costume and helmet were also among the many Tokusatsu hero references and influences in the 2003 GameCube game Beautiful Joe. Like other Tokusatsu TV series from this period, Kaiketsu Zubat was also serialized as a manga during its television broadcast. This included 2 separate works, one in the pages of TV Land and the other in Adventure King. Unlike the TV series, these takes of the character tended to take a softer and at times comedic approach to the title character's adventures. The series has also been made available for home video, starting with a 4-volume VHS release. This would be followed by a Laserdisc release between 1993 and 94. Of particular note is that Miyauchi autographed the first set of these Laserdiscs before they were shipped to fans. a special memorial compilation work was also released on VHS and Laserdisc in 2000. The first DVD media for Zubat was released in September of 2004. Zubat also had a limited release through Toei's Tokusatsu World YouTube channel, which made the first 2 episodes available to fans outside of Japan. Kaiketsu Zubat is one of the few Tokusatsu hero programs to transcend its era and be universally beloved by fans of the genre. That's not to say the show is without flaws, because like its contemporaries, it has its fair share of those too. What it does do particularly well is present the story of a private detective whose charisma, skills, and style make him a cool character that you can't help but want to cheer on. After all, he is Japan's #1 hero.